Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Judiciary frontman Jake Collinson to the show. Judiciary's new record, Flesh and Blood, is out today on Closed Casket Activities. There are so many labels just killing it right now, and Closed Casket is a label where every release is just bananas. Make sure you hit up their Bandcamp page and dive into their discography if you haven't yet. I will post a link in the show notes. And if you like hardcore, you will absolutely love Flesh and Blood. It's a phenomenal record. Jake talks about his love for Texas, starting bands in a small town, how Judiciary got connected with Closed Casket, the new record, and so much more. Before we dive into this week's chat with Jake, it is New Music Friday, so let's dive into some news and new releases. Flat Spot Records has announced that they will be releasing The Bad Kind Decides, the debut EP from Buffalo hardcore band Bad Blood. That EP is out March 31st. Bad Blood is the new project from Terror vocalist Scott Vogel. They also dropped the first single called Apology Denied. You can pre-order that EP now. Bad Blood will be playing 2 shows in Brooklyn in April on the 7th and 8th. Speaking of shows, Converge have announced that they will be hitting the road for a brief spring tour with Brutus and Frail Body. That tour starts on May 18th and runs through the 26th, hitting mostly the Southeast with a couple shows in the Midwest. Tickets go on sale today, Friday, March 10th at noon. So make sure you get your tickets for that. Veil of Maya have announced their first new record since 2017's False Idol. The album is called Mother. That will be out May 12th on Sumerian Records. The band released the first single from that record called Red Fur. It's a super dope song. Let's listen to a little bit of it. You can pre-order that record from Sumerian right now. Project Vengeance, the deathcore supergroup formerly known as the Big Six, have debuted their first single called Cut, Bleed, Repeat. This project features Will from Lorna Shore, Taylor from Left to Suffer, Darius from Spite, Dickie from Infant Annihilator, and Tyler from Traitors. This song is just an absolutely bananas deathcore song. I've seen some people complaining about this track and its lack of creativity, but it's just like a deathcore supergroup. What did people want? It's to feature the vocalist. Like, the song is bananas. I think it's pretty cool. So, hardcore band Drain has released a brand new single called FTS KYS. Find Your Strength, Kill Yourself. It's from their album Living Proof, which is out May 5th on FTAP Records. The song is so funny. It's actually a positive song. It's about killing the parts of you that you should let go, that hold you back, and trying to become a better person. It's actually a really positive song. It's funny. Talking to my therapist, an old therapist, like a year ago, who being like, what are hardcore lyrics really about? I mean, like, they're super positive. I love hardcore. Like, Hatebreed, Hatebreed, like, gets me up and going. I'm just like, yeah, I can fucking do it, man. Hatebreed, like, but it's funny that this song is called Find Your Strength, Kill Yourself. Not really the positive title you would think for a song about being a better person, but here it is. Living Proof out May 5th. Drain will also be at Furnace Fest this year. So if you're going to the fest, make sure you check out Drain. Total Deathcore Records has announced Total Death Fest happening on April 7th and April 8th at Ground Zero in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Total Death Fest is a dream come true, says label owner Daniel Whitehouse, showcasing the best unsigned up-and-coming musicians from all over the East Coast, particularly from the Southeast. Tickets are on sale now, and it's only $40 to go for both days. So if you are in South Carolina or close to that Spartanburg area, want to check out Total Death Fest on the 7th and 8th of April, I highly recommend doing it. I will be super stoked to look into the bands on this fest. A bunch of metalcore, deathcore, death metal. It should be a really fun time if that's what you're into. Last little bit of news before we talk about new releases out today. Emma Ruth Rundle has released a video for In My Afterlife. It is from her record Engine of Hell, which came out in November of 21. This video coincides with Emma announcing a North American spring tour, which kicks off March 24th in Vancouver. This will be her first North American tour performing Engine of Hell and Orpheus Looking Back. All right, let's talk about some new music that is out today because it's a great week. First, I'm going to start, if you don't like hardcore or metal, want something a little lighter as we head into the spring season, new pop punk outfit Nearly Spent has released their new single Drowning on Affiant Records. It is streaming everywhere today. It's a really rad song. Let's listen to a little clip of it.
I won't let go. Dying just to feel alive with you. I won't let go. I was trying just to please you. Easy on mine. You're mine. I won't let you.
Make sure you add that to your playlist and enjoy. Like I said, Judiciary's new record, Flesh and Blood, is out today on Closed Casket Activities. Just a phenomenal hardcore record. I can't recommend checking it out enough. Wednesday's guest, Chad and For the Fallen Dreams, are releasing their new self-titled record on A Rising Empire. If you guys missed nu metal, this is a record to check out. Chad did some really interesting vocal work on this record. This is one of those records that will likely be controversial, as I know even listening to Six, and if you listen to my chat with Chad, you'll hear some about this. Like on Six, the band kind of softened their sound, really went with a more melodic metalcore sound on that record, but it was still metalcore. And on this record, they really break out of the metalcore shell. Chad said this record was still heavy, the lowest tunings the band has ever used. And I just think it's an overall cool record. Even if you don't like nu metal and just like For the Fallen Dreams, I recommend checking this record out. I think there's going to be something you'll enjoy about this record. If you want something super fucking heavy, Suicide Silence, Remember You Must Die is out today on Century Media Records. This is Suicide Silence being Suicide Silence. It's just deathcore. It's heavy. I listened to this record when I first got the promo for it, and I'm excited to dive into it even more. The artwork is just creepy and cool as hell. If you like deathcore, check out Remember You Must Die. On the Degenti progressive side, Periphery is releasing Periphery 5. Degent is not a genre. Debatable. I've listened to this record a few times. It's really good. It's Periphery doing prog Degent. It's a super dope record. That is out on 3 Dot Recordings, so make sure you check that record out. Those are the records I'm highlighting today. I'm sure there are more. Last Friday I did the show, and then I was like, oh, the new Zulu record's out, and that was amazing. And then I discovered McKenna Grace, who is an actress turned angsty pop rock artist. She put out her debut EP, which is phenomenal. Check out Zulu, check out McKenna Grace, both killer records. So if I missed something, leave a note in the comments somewhere. Tell me a record I missed. You can join us on Discord and hang out on the Discord page and share new music there. I love it when people drop links to records to check out on Bandcamp or Spotify. There's a great meme I saw. It says, remember, people who share new music with you are important. And I feel that way. I love when people share bands with me. I love getting to share bands with other people. Speaking of sharing bands with people, I hope you guys enjoyed today's chat with Jake Collinson from Judiciary. Let's get into it. So I know I'm not your first pod tonight, so we'll try to make this so you're not saying the same things over.
No worries, man. I'm an open book. Ask whatever you want.
It's the cycle. I don't know. Is there anything that like in doing these like media cycles that nobody asks about the band or the record that you wish they would, that you would like to talk about?
That's a good question. I mean, not really. I think that like sometimes I think that people don't ask like direct references to like musically, but like I think that sometimes that comes out naturally. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. So whatever you feel like asking, I'm with it.
All right. Cool. Well, let's just jump at the beginning then. You're from Texas?
Yes, I was born and raised in Lubbock, Texas, but I currently reside in San Antonio.
Awesome. What was growing up like?
So Lubbock, Texas is it's a weird place, man. It's in the middle of the Panhandle. It's about 6 hours away from any of like the major cities like Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, everything like that.
Yeah.
So growing up, I grew up in a smaller town outside of Lubbock, actually called New Deal. It's about 700 people strong. I graduated with like 42 people in my class.
Wow.
Yeah, so a very tiny town, but yeah, man, not a lot to do, and that's just kind of how it was and how it's always been.
Nice. What did you do? You get into sports, or were you like into music early?
So I kind of bounced around. I think that early on, I was very into sports. Like in early middle school, I was like obsessed with like. I find like when I in my life, I'll kind of jump from like one obsession to the next. So like early middle school, I was really obsessed with like collecting like trading cards, like football cards, basketball cards, baseball cards, and I used to watch like all the sports all the time.
Yeah.
And then later in the middle school, like was when I got into like more of my own like guitar music. So I got really into like the rock at the time, like the Avenged Sevenfolds of the world and that kind of stuff. And that kind of just evolved into heavy music eventually. So
Yeah. I like trying to gauge people's ages when they say like middle school and these are the bands. And then I'll be like, okay, that's how much older I am then. For talking to you.
Yeah, I'm 27 years old. So
all right. Yeah, got a solid decade on you. That's awesome. What I mean, Texas, like, what was the scene like there in Lubbock for you to like get into? You're in a small town, small like graduating class. Like, did you have friends that you were like had this music packed with, or was it like how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up a little bit outside of Lubbock. Lubbock is like a medium-sized city. It's like, or I say medium to small-sized city. Like population is around 200,000 people. So I kind of got more into heavy music because there was a kid at my school who I actually later started my first band with. He was super into bands like Slipknot and stuff like that. And then his brother played in a pop punk band that played shows in and around Lubbock. So when I was in like 8th grade, we would go to his brother's shows and stuff like that. And they would play, since it's such a small scene, like you have this pop punk band that would end up playing with like a deathcore band or a metalcore band and stuff like that. So that's kind of like how my gateway kind of like became into like heavier music. And then like through that, I started going to bigger shows, like some of the bigger metalcore tours that would come down. Like I saw As I Lay Dying a few times in Lubbock, and there were some other metalcore bands that came through. Like my first heavy show, quote unquote, was like Bleeding Through, Unearth, and Devil Wears Prada and Veil Maya. It came through, and then like we were like a perfect off day city in between Dallas and Albuquerque, so people would kind of stop there every now and then to like get it. But like the scene kind of like would come in waves every now and then. Like it's never really had like a solid local backing as long as I've been going to shows. There might have been stuff going before that was more solid, but yeah, it's just kind of like it comes in waves kind of thing.
Yeah. It seems like with Texas, it's like the major cities always have shows, or it's like Austin or Houston or whatever. And then it's like, but Texas is so big that like you can get lost if you're not in one of those major metropolises.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, we're up in the middle of nowhere essentially. So like it's kind of hard to reach us sometimes.
Yeah. What point you had this friend? At what point did you start playing in bands and like trying to explore music?
So I started, I think me and him and a couple of other friends started our first band when I was probably like an 8th grader or something like that. Like going into high school. He lived like out in the country in like middle cotton fields. So like we could kind of practice and nobody would complain about the noise or anything like that. Plus, like, we could borrow his brother's, like, his brother played bass, so we borrowed, like, his bass gear and everything like that. Which, you know, shout out Matt, because he, I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but he really helped us out there.
Good job.
But, yeah, so we started when I was, like, in 8th grade. And that band was not really any good. But like, not many people's first band when they're in middle school is good. So
right.
I think the only band that had kids in it that has ever been good on the first try was that band Hammerhead from Kansas City, and that's probably it. But yeah, so we started that band, and then like that lasted probably until I was like a freshman in high school sometime, and then I also played. In another band, I played bass very badly. And I started that band, or Austin and Israel, who play in Judiciary now, started that band, and I helped them out on bass. That lasted for like a year or so. And then, we started Judiciary like about the time that my high school career was ending in 2013. So.
Nice. What led you from bass playing to vocalist?
So honestly, I was always the vocalist, and like like in the first band I did, I was the vocalist, and then the only reason I played bass in that band with Austin and Israel was because they had nobody else, and I was like, I can try. I don't know. But yeah, I started kind of trying to figure out vocals just because I thought it was cool. Like before I started my first band, I would just like try to do stuff in my room alone when my parents were gone. And I eventually just kind of fell into being a vocalist with a microphone in my hand. Nice.
What led you from the Lubbock area out to San Antonio?
So my I moved out here in 2020. My girlfriend is kind of what led me out here, but
gotcha.
She's going for a PhD right now in neuroscience, and she wasn't going anywhere, and I wanted to get out of Lubbock, so San Antonio was for me. So
nice. What has kept you in Texas all these years? Just like it's home, and
yeah. I mean, it's home, and you know, just like different circumstances. Like I went to college out of high school, and like I went to college at Texas Tech in Lubbock, but also like. It was just home. It was cheaper to stay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was more so the biggest part of it. And then, like I said, San Antonio, like A, I wanted to get out of Lubbock, and B, my girlfriend was here. So it was kind of just the best course of action.
Yeah. Just made sense. Because like, it's always weird. Like as a lifelong East Coaster, you know, sometimes you look at Texas and you're like, oh man, what a mess. Or Florida, right? States like that. But people stay there, and you're just like, yeah, I mean, that's people's homes. Like, people love that. Like,
no. I mean, it's like, I think that there's just like any state, like there's parts where people don't really love, but like I think there's a lot to admire about like Texas, and Texas has a lot to offer between any of the big cities, and like there's a bunch of natural beauty here. The food is great. Like I like it a lot here, honestly.
Well, talk to me about Judiciary. How'd this band get started?
So like I said, I just graduated high school, and Austin, our drummer, he's been like my best friend since elementary. Like we rode the same bus together, and everything like that. And then Israel, I met through an ex-girlfriend when I was in high school, and basically just kind of adopted him as my own, essentially. And we kind of we had that band together where I played bass, and that ended. And we were basically just like, hey, let's start a new band. Like, why not? And originally the goal was we wanted to do like a melodic band, like kind of like that was on the tail end of when like Have Heart broke up.
Okay. Yeah.
So like that was like kind of the original statement. But then like we tried writing songs like that and it just wasn't going very well. And then like in between us actually trying to write the songs, we would just jam like hardcore songs, like try to sound like the bands that were big at the time, like Backtrack or something like that.
Yeah.
So like it got to a point where we were just like, this is coming way more naturally to us. Like, let's just pursue this, honestly. Yeah. So we kind of dove down that rabbit hole. And eventually we had like 3 songs written. And we hit up Kyle, who he was like 4 years older than us. And he played guitar only at the time. But we were just like, hey, like, do you want to get bass equipment and play for us? And he was like, sure, let's do it. So that's kind of how Judiciary formed, was just out of like natural inclination to play hardcore music, and then just a couple friends just wanted to start a band. So
nice. That's rad. Where'd the name come from?
I don't remember who came up with it. I think it was me, but I'm not totally sure on that. Basically, we just wanted something that sounded cool, and I felt like we could like kind of expand on that, like concept wise, because there's a bunch of like imagery that you can pair with that, and everything like that. So that's kind of just where we went with it.
Yeah. Does that like tie into like the Access of Equality EP and like even the new artwork?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything that we've done to this point has been tied to the name in some way, shape, or form. So
yeah. Did that inform how you chose to write lyrics?
Yeah, in a way. I think that like a bunch of it was natural, like me just kind of looking outward and talking about what I see and how I feel about it. But like, I think that it didn't hurt that like we had this kind of, I guess, like political system leaning name that kind of guided that. So
what led you guys to Closed Casket?
So I had always admired like Closed Casket releases. When I first started getting into hardcore, some of the releases were like super pivotal in me like staying. Like Incendiary's Cost of Living LP, Twitching Tongue, like the early Twitching Tongue stuff, the early Harv's Way stuff. There was a few splits with like Incendiary, Suburban Scum, Sabalba. So like they were super pivotal in keeping me in. So I always respected that label a lot. And then when we went to go record Surface Noise, we went to go record with Taylor Young. And obviously Taylor's had a bunch of Closed Casket releases, and he's in a few bands that have worked closely with them. So we were fully prepared to just self-release that record on our own, manufacture some records, and send them out ourselves. But we went to the studio, and Taylor was like, hey, like, do you guys have anybody putting this out? And we're like, no, not yet. Like, we're kind of just prepared to self-release this thing because nobody's hitting us up right now. And then he was like, well, do you want me to send it to Justin over at Closed Casket? And we were like, I mean, that would be our first choice out of like anybody, honestly. Like that, it without him even saying that, that's who we wanted to put the record out anyway, because we felt like it was the most natural fit. And then we were in the middle of recording it. He sent some like recordings in progress over to Justin, and Justin texted him back and said like, oh, I like this a lot. I'll be in touch with them, essentially. So Yeah, I think we owe it to Taylor big time on that assist. I think that's kind of how it played out.
Yeah, you guys put out Surface Noises January of 2019. So like you're one of those bands that actually had time to tour your record before everything shut down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How did COVID impact you guys? Because you had like a year plus with the record being out. Or did you have 2020 plans, or were you going to start writing the next thing?
So our plan for 2020 was like we had our last tour of 2019. It was with Gatecreeper and Exhumed, and we decided like, okay, we have these couple one-off shows at the beginning of the year, and then we didn't have a tour planned until August of 2020 after that. So we were like, okay, we're gonna spend like those 7 months or so like just hunkered down in and just try to write this record as good and as efficiently as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then March of 2020 hit.
Yeah.
And we realized that we couldn't be in person. We had to kind of pivot. So we ended up having to buy some like recording software. A couple of our guys had to learn how to use that recording software so that way we could pass back and forth demos. So 2020 was just a bunch of like trying to get our bearings, honestly.
Yeah.
And we were all going through life stuff, obviously, as everybody was during that time. Like,
Yeah.
I moved here to San Antonio. Some of the other guys were going through like some job stuff. So it was like, we were just, like I said, 2020 was just trying to get our bearings. And then we actually got those bearings. And then 2021, we finally started to kind of be head first into the record.
Yeah. Yeah. I know each state like kind of had its own regulations, and I mean, I was in Philly and then down in the DC area. So like everything was super closed and limited. Like, what was it like for you guys in Texas? Was it more open there at some point where it was just like, okay, we can start to get together? Was there like self-quarantining going on between the band? Or
So for 2020, a bunch of it was pretty restricted. Like I think that at that point, I don't remember when stuff started like opening back up more here. But like even when stuff was opening back up, we were still trying to be pretty careful and cognizant of like what we were doing. And obviously like for part of 2020, I was still living in Lubbock and seeing like my mom all the time, who is a cancer survivor. Her immune system isn't as good as it once was. So it was like, we need to make sure that we're being careful and thoughtful about what we're doing and making sure that, we're not putting anybody at risk.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it was, I don't remember when exactly we started like seeing each other more. And I think like once we, just realized that we could be safe and do it, that's when we started. So
Nice. Because you had that extra time to write, did it kind of change the shape and sound that this record took?
I don't know if it changed because the vision was there from the start. Like
Okay.
Our bassist Kyle kind of had the broad vision for it of like the direction of sound we should probably go. And we all agreed with it, and a bunch of it was just trying to narrow it down and get everybody on the same page to pull that off, essentially. So, yeah, I don't think it changed. I think that more people, like, I think we all just slowly got on a similar page as time went on.
Yeah. I saw in the press release like this record was mastered and mixed by Will. You credited him for like how big the record sounds.
Yeah, exactly. Like we wanted Arthur to like kind of grit it up and like make sure that it sounded like a traditional metal record.
Yeah.
Which he did. We recorded in Philly for like a few weeks with him, and it was awesome. And then we brought in Will because we were like, okay, Will can kind of bring that like more modern metal sound, and then we can merge the two, which is exactly what we were trying to do sound wise, like take something a little bit older and traditional and make it modern sounding.
Yeah. The record is massive and it sounds great, and yeah, it's definitely an evolution and like a step up from the last record.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Talk to me about the artwork. Whose idea was the concept for the artwork? It's super cool.
So again, our bassist Kyle kind of had like a big, like he had kind of like the broad stroke creative like idea for the direction of sound, but also like aesthetically like what it should look like. Me, him, and our drummer Austin were kind of like the main aesthetic people here. But he had the idea, and we were just trying to get on the same page there to pull it off. But yeah, we brought in Nicholas Parks, who did the cover shot and then our promo shots and some of the shots for the packaging of the record.
Mm-hmm.
And he crushed it, man.
The record is called Flesh Plus Blood. Where'd the title come from?
So it's actually Flesh and Blood.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's all good. People are gonna call it Flesh Plus Blood. We knew that was gonna happen.
I didn't know if that was like an intentional choice to be like, no, it's not Flesh and Blood.
No. That was we just thought that the plus sign looked cooler. It was different.
Right.
Yeah. But it comes with the territory. So
yeah.
But yeah, the Flesh and Blood, like the title, there's I kind of say that like if you ask any 5 of the members like what that means, you would get 5 different answers, and I think that that was intentional. There's some, I guess, like there's some like religious themes in there. There's some just like literal themes like flesh and blood, family, yourself as human, everything like that. And I think in the lyrics, like I tried to relate the lyrics to what could match like those several meanings. So I think that it kind of evolves like what you can relate it to from there.
Gotcha. Good. That's cool. You mentioned like religious themes. Like what was driving that lyrically? I mean, what was driving you lyrically? There's so much happening obviously for 2 years.
Yeah. So I think that for me, like when I was writing lyrics, it was we were trying to build like a visual world of like what we wanted like the record to sound like. So trying to paint that, or at least assist painting that through the lyrics of like kind of like, I mean, if you watch the music video, it's kind of like a post-apocalyptic like landscape, and I tried to convey that through some of like the theming of my lyrics. But also I tried to on this record kind of look a little bit more inside, because I feel like on the last couple releases that we've done, it's a bunch of me looking outward and trying to, I guess, put into words my anger with the world.
Yeah.
And on this one, I think that I made it a little bit more personal and kind of questioned myself a little bit more on it, which, as cliche as it sounds, I think that was like what I needed to do, essentially. I think that like, if we wanted to write the same record again, like that would be a misstep. So I thought it would be a good thing to change it up.
Yeah. Do you think that came from the pandemic and just like more time to think and be quiet and just?
I think that was definitely part of it, and also like obviously the pandemic gave me a lot to write about.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely think it's fair to say that was part of it.
The record is out on March 10th. What's your plans after this album comes out?
So we are doing a few release shows around around Texas with some friends. And then we will be around. I guess we're trying to reach out into different parts of the country, East Coast, West Coast, everything like that. So we have some stuff in the works that we can't really announce yet, but we're going to be around, I think is the best I can say. And I'm trying to just get back out on the road and see America again, because it's been a bunch of Texas the past couple of years. So.
Yeah. I know, like for like late half of 21, and I think even parts of early 22, it was really hard to like book tours as literally everyone was out. And it still seems like every day there's a new tour announcement and people are out all the time. Does that just make it hard for a smaller, newer band to get out there and be like, hey, we're trying to tour too?
Yeah, well, it was a bunch of it is just like we didn't want to get back out until we had something to get back out for, essentially.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So like this record kind of guided that. So yeah, I've definitely had many cases of FOMO, just waiting to get back out and play shows. You know what I mean?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, like, what have you been enjoying lately, like media wise? Are there records, books, movies, TVs you've been like super stoked on recently?
I've been really enjoying the show I've been obsessed with recently is a Korean show called Physical 100.
Okay.
It's on Netflix, and it's basically like, not just because it's Korean, but it's like a mix of like American Gladiator and Squid Games.
All right.
So they gather like 100 like of the Korea's like best athletes up for like a physical competition, and basically they give them competitions until there's one left standing. And it's just been crazy because these people are like incredible athletes, and it's fun to watch them like either fight or like race and stuff like that. So it's really fun to watch.
Nice.
Music wise, the new Narrowhead LP just came out, and I love that record so much, honestly. What else have I been listening to? Yeah, honestly, a bunch of Narrowhead. It's not new, but I've been listening to a lot of Aphex Twin recently.
All right.
I just love like the piano stuff that like Richard does in a bunch of that. So like that's kind of like my sitting by myself and chilling music.
Nice. Yeah.
Essentially. So yeah.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.